Hello Multiverse, welcome to Omniverse Gamers. My name's Damien Bizzaio. This video is going to dissect another dynamic encounter. We're going to call this one Asylum Spectator Eyes. This is from the game Alleged Asylum Adventures. So we have these three magic users in this asylum. Now sometimes they have these weird dreams or these vision sequences where they're outside the asylum, escaping, doing all kinds of adventures, fighting monsters, doing very random things. But no matter what happens, they always end up waking up back in this asylum. With the terrifying nightmares, sometimes they die, sometimes they live, so there's all kinds of puzzles. Everything they experience in their vision world is kind of a metaphor for what's going on in this asylum, and it's kind of back and forth. They don't know if the vision world in the future or the past are just totally made up. They don't really know the answer to that yet. So they're just kind of working their way through asylum life. Now, they have experienced maybe 7 to 8 days in this asylum, but the people of the asylum tell them they've only been there for 2 or 3 days. And so it's like, but they know they have memories for a lot longer than that, but they just keep waking up, reliving. It's kind of like a Groundhog's Day meets Harry Potter meets a Arkham Asylum type of game. Anyway, if you watch Frog Puzzle Gone Wrong and Gone Right, last session, one of the sessions, they acquired these blue gems, and they brought them back. And when they woke up in the asylum world, they had these gems with them. They had this little box they can kind of. The asylum wipes every at midnight. Anything magical inside their room wipes, so they can't. It's an asylum, so they try to keep them under control. But they have found this little box made of lead. It looks like a little index card box, like you would hold like index cards in, like a metal box that opens up, and they can put stuff in there that will not get wiped. It doesn't get wiped when the thing happens. So one of the things they have are these gems. The human psionic has a glass eye that's spell focused, so he has to put that in there so he doesn't lose it. He has to keep that hidden. And they have this pencil. When they write stuff, it can do magical effects. And they also have gotten clues that they can write this pencil. If they write certain runes on their body, they get these magical effects. Because they're in an asylum and they can't really have magic items because they get taken away. So instead of having magic items, they acquire these runes, and as they write the runes on themselves, they basically mimic magic items. They can carry so many runes per level. And right now, I think they can carry 3. And they have, makes your cantrip stronger, makes your armor class better, makes your spell attacks better. There's different runes that they've acquired that they can write down and make them give themselves more power. So they recently have found some gems that allow them, if they're holding them, they can go out their door. So they did that a couple times. They went running around the asylum, kind of just willy-nilly, and they came very close to getting caught. And the whole point is not getting caught, because if they get caught, they're going to reset the keys and they're going to be right back where they were and not be able to get outside. So they're just kind of running around. So the idea of this encounter is I need a way for them to be able to leave and run around the asylum without them just getting caught super easily, because that's just boring. I want it to be exciting and interesting. I want them to be able to escape and explore this asylum, not just the dream sequences. This encounter kind of facilitates that. Now the idea, I'll show you, this map came from Chepeku, another great map from Chepeku, and Zillustrator. They kind of collaborated on this. I'll put their Patreons down below. They're both really cool. They got really cool things, and they let me film this stuff. So I'll show you this map right here. It's just a big, giant, massive beholder with all these eyeballs. You can see this thing is great. I could have used this in 100 different ways, and I am going to use this again. But for what I'm doing today, I'm going to take a little tiny section of this. I'm going to basically turn this giant creature into a labyrinth. I'm going to make this whole map a labyrinth, like a maze. So they go to bed. They usually, sometimes they know when they go to sleep, it usually doesn't end well. So they actually write on their skin, like, don't give me bad dreams, or don't give me any dreams, so with a pencil. So they actually don't have any dreams until midnight. And at midnight, all the magic wipes. So because they have to put the pencil back in the little box. But at midnight, all the magic will wipe. So at midnight, of course, the magic's wiped. The little thing they wrote on stuff did work. That they did not get any dreams until midnight. When the magic went away, then their nightmares started happening. They all started swirling through these things, the slime, like these weird tentacles were slapping them and sliding them in this darkness. Even though the one our shadow sorcerers from the Shadowfell and can see magical darkness, it was still too dark for her. It was just like this dream sequence, and they ended up falling on this hard rock. It's cold, hard rock. And I'll show you the map here. Let me switch over to my side view. So what they see is this. They're just in this two little rocks, and this purple wall around them that's kind of moving. I have the wall kind of like the wall's alive. Like the tentacles are so big, and that's why she can't see very far, because these tentacles are just wrapped. They're in like a room made of tentacles that are moving and sliding, and they're just like, oh crap, what's this? As that's happening, I kind of lower, as I'm describing it, and as they're waking up, I lower the tentacles a little bit. They lower down so that they can kind of see a little farther. So the area opens up a little bit, and what they see are these big spheres. And the spheres have this really weird, wrinkly skin on them. And I mean, they're eyeballs. We've seen the map. They're obviously eyeballs. So what I did, I wanted to use like a beholder, but these are 3 third level magic users. They are not very strong at all. So what I did, I took a spectator, I think just from the monster manual, I'm pretty sure. It's basically a smaller beholder. It's a challenge level 3 beholder that has a couple different abilities. But instead of a bite, I made the eyelids so they can open and shut really strongly. So when it's not biting you, it's just closing you in the eyeball. If they got close enough for a physical attack. But as you can see, these eyeballs, I'm using a fixed map here, so these eyeballs are not going to move. Although the players do not know that, because the eyeballs are just part of these tentacles, and they're just kind of, these eyeballs represent the people watching them escape in the asylum. So I'm trying to help them defeat that, so that metaphorically they can find a way to not get noticed in the asylum, in the real world of the asylum. That's the whole goal of this encounter, is to try to, if they defeat this little puzzle, well, it's not really a puzzle, if they defeat this little encounter, they will then get another rune that allows them to be invisible. And that's what they don't know that, but that they just know these eyeballs are a problem. So they're kind of like, what is this? Now the little, like I'm describing the purple as like, still writhing and moving underneath, and the map eventually, this eyeball will open up, and they're like, oh my god, and the eyeball will shoot, because spectators have a beam, they have the eye rays, and they have 4 of them, and you just randomly shoot one of the 4 beams at them. But one thing I don't ever use things against players that take their turns away. It's just the way that I DM. I'd rather give you a -8 and disadvantage than paralyze you or banish you or take your. I don't want to take anyone's turn away. I want you to have agency. I never take away a player's agency. I know paralyzation's fine, and a hold person's a legal spell, and it's not the way I DM. I like to torture people, not stop them. If that makes sense, I'd rather give you a choice. I'd rather have you hang yourself than just tell me, oh, you can't move now. You're done. So I took the paralyzing ray and I just molded it into the fear ray. I kind of, if I roll a 2 or a 3, it did the fear ray, which was more fun for this encounter, because in a fear ray you have to move away, and obviously running away is going to have you run right off these cliffs. So it's going to be, it kind of ended up pretty cool. Anyway, so they kind of, they roll in. We already have initiative rolls. They kind of see this eyeball, and they're like, oh, I wonder if it's friendly or not. And they're like, we're pretty sure this is not friendly. I mean, this is an eyeball. And the eyeball suddenly looks at them, and the purple iris of the eyeball starts to glow to this dark red, and it's clear that this thing's building up some kind of power that it's going to unleash. We've already rolled initiative. I'm last in initiative, so I'll get to go first. So the warlock, the human warlock, has the most strength. She's going to start to jump. She jumps over this thing, and it's really easy. It's a really easy jump. It's like 5 feet. She can easily cross it. But then she wants to try to jump to this middle one. And as she goes over there, I'm telling her that's a 10-foot jump. You're going to have to run. You're going to have to really jump. She's not that strong. Athletics isn't that great. I mean, she only needs a 10, but when you have a +0, 10's not that easy to hit. She makes it. She lands over there. She shoots her Eldritch Blast at the eyeball. It hits it, So they're pretty much engaging in these eyeballs as the world's, they're still sliding around, slithering, and the whole world's kind of organic and moving. Even though it's a static picture, as I'm describing it, the picture's enough to get the description as I describe it. So, and then they start to move around. They start to shoot their little cantrips, whatever they do at the eyeball. At a certain point, because these other two don't want to move. They don't dare to jump yet because they're afraid that they're gonna fall. Because they don't. Their strength's really low. So they end up. The sorcerer's like, I gotta move. I can't stay right here. She jumps over there. She makes it. It was easy. 5-foot jump's easy. You can just kind of step and fall. It wasn't a big deal. So she's over there as the tentacles are wrapping around her, and I'm shooting the eye beams at them, randomly. And I can't. They keep making their save throw, so I have not been able to hit one of them. And then they keep, they fight it. They fight these things. Now, as you can see, the map opens up, and these other 2 eyeballs open up, and they open. They don't do anything. They just kind of open on one turn. And then I have on that same turn, this first one is going to close. So I have a thing where every round they either open or attack or they close. So it's like a 3-round cycle. Each one of these eyeballs is on a 3-round cycle. So that's just how I kind of mapped it out. So now this one's closed. They kind of spread out a little more. The human tries to jump from here to there, and he barely misses, but he ends up holding on and making it. So he's down here with this blue eyeball. The human warlock was fighting this one eyeball, but then it closed, and she went to hit it while it was closed, and its armor class was ridiculously high. It was I gave it a 20 while it was closed, and then while it's open, it's only a 14. So once these eyeballs close, obviously it's harder to hit them, which is kind of the dynamic of making them kind of switch back and forth, because spectators don't have a lot of hit points. Neither do magic users that are low level. So at a certain point, so the eyeballs kind of go back and forth, opening and closing. Then I have these 2 closed, and I have the middle one open. Now I finally managed to get this purple eye over here to the sorcerer fails her fear check. So she is forced to run away, and she has to jump off this one thing into this other one, and she rolls her check. It's not good. She rolls, she misses, so she's falling. I gave her a straight saving throw to try to grab onto the ledge, because she falls short, but the tentacle down below, that's in between, is sliding this way underneath her. So she has to roll an athletics check to kind of grab onto the rock to not get pulled away by the tentacle. It's not grabbing her, it's just the ground's sliding out underneath her. So she makes her check amazingly. So she's kind of dangling. She manages to roll up onto the thing prone, and then they proceed to fight. But now she is frozen she's frightened, so she can't get any closer to this purple one. She has to keep running, which is pretty funny. And then this guy kind of moves around. They kind of try to double team this purple one here. And they start to I started to do these little eyeball things. I try to show damage by making more red and bloody. Just a way to show damage on these monsters that I'm literally not moving them on the map at all. I'm just putting images over them to make them close and open. The Hexblade Warlock tries to jump right up underneath its eyeball, so she's going to stab it with her katana. And as she gets close, she hits it pretty good, but then its eyelid closes on her hand, and it kind of like bites her and grabs her, and she's like, oh crap, but she's luckily strong enough to get away. But now they know that if they get too close, these things will snap. They're not moving, but they are snapping. And I also have like these tentacles here that are kind of pushing them around and stuff. I'm trying to corral them with the tentacles, not dealing damage, but just kind of closing them in, pushing them, doing things to make them move that they don't, because I don't want them to sit still. I want them to have to run around, So eventually they kill this one purple eyeball. They get it. Now, the other two are closed. They try to start closing in. The other one shoots their far away things. And now this one, she ends up getting afraid. So she ends up trying to jump back down here. The sorceress tries to jump back down to this middle one. She fails. She fails miserably. She fails her save throw to grab onto the ledge. So now she's getting dragged away by the swirling things are pulling her away, and they're like, the other two are like, oh my god, she's gonna get pulled into the abyss basically in this weird strange dream. So the Hexblade runs over, does a couple jumping, she jumps her best to get over there to try to save her. She goes down to reach her, she fails her, she passes her saving throw to grab the sorceress, but the sorceress fails her saving throw to help her pull, so she actually pulls the Hexblade down with her. Now they're both on the tentacle getting swept away. Human Scion over here is just like, he's way too far away to do anything. Eventually, the sorceress will be able to make a save and roll up, because of the way the Hexblade stopped her just enough to stop her momentum, so it gave her a chance to grab onto the rock. She grabs onto the rock, but she's not strong enough to pull the Hexblade up. So she rolls up to there herself. She kind of holds her there, but she can't pull her up. She's got her from preventing the Hexblade from pulling away with it. She rolled like an 18. She's like holding on for everything she's got, because she's got a -1 in strength. Now they're doing the human Scion's alone trying to fight this little blue eye down at the bottom, and the Hexblade fails. She goes sliding. She goes rolling down the thing. It's a little bit more. She finally makes her save and climbs back up, and then they end up they force attack the eyeball on the bottom, and they end up killing it. And that was a super. That encounter probably took 20 minutes or so, and it was kind of crazy because it was just the different dynamics and the terrain sweeping them away. And as they defeated this when they woke up in their asylum, they had this little book where this little boy writes messages to them. He's this little halfling boy is trying to help them escape the asylum, because they're going to help him escape the asylum. He's trying to like give them the powers to come save him, basically. They don't like him. They have problems with him. There's all kinds of different side quests going on, side stories going on, where they don't like the boy. There's this little girl that kind of helps them. They don't like her either. They don't know if the boy is actually part of the trap or actually trying to help them, because he's kind of a little douche. But it's just part of the game anyway. So they wake up, and there's a message saying, now you can walk freely without being seen. And there's a new rune in the book, and if they write that on them, they have invisibility cast on themselves. So now they'll be able to escape the asylum, and they'll run around, make sounds and stuff, but they won't be instantly seen by anyone casually walking through them. So this whole encounter, it was just a really fun, simple encounter against some arcane casters that are not that strong. And obviously, I can't send like trolls after them and big powerful things, because they're magic users and they have no front line. I mean, the Hexblade's okay in melee combat, but that's not what she wants to be doing, Not by herself with two magic users they're only 3rd level. So this was a nice way to fight a Beholder, this massive map. This could have been a whole big labyrinth, but I just used this little part, and we'll use the old big map in another encounter for sure. So you can see how I just used a Spectator as part of a larger creature, but I didn't even have to move my monsters at all. They were fixed. I described the terrain as moving, but the eyeballs stayed right where they were. They defeated these eyeballs. The eyeballs represented the staff of the asylum. So now they defeated that, so now they're able to become invisible to the staff, which is going to open up this game even more and let them keep their secret that they're escaping the asylum. That was a simple magic-based encounter that probably wouldn't have worked as well with martial characters. They would have found it boring, but because of the nature of the arcane and that it's a dream sequence, and it all kind of ties together in meaning with the whole game, the exposition keeps going, because now they know, we can. And plus, there's this big giant. They heard this at one point. They stabbed the tentacle, and the bigger creature from the north, which they never saw that. They just kind of, so they know there's some kind of big giant, like Lovecraftian, like monster in this dream sequence they had, and they only fought this little tiny section of it. So they may or may not get the clues that there's a giant beholder in this thing that they might have to deal with later. But that was just how that encounter went down. It was a simple little setup in a little corner of a map. They didn't even have to move. They just did, because the way I described it, it made it more beneficial for them to move than to stand still. But there was no really issues with them staying where they were. They just, and the fact that when they failed their jumps, the tentacles would sweep them away. Gave this more of a terrain kind of combat. The combat was against the terrain. Literally, the terrain was the enemy. The whole enemy was part of the terrain, other than the little rock that they stepped on. Everything else in this environment was the encounter. Just another example of an encounter you can run that's fairly simple, straightforward, but there's clear goals. I have clear goals. They don't really know their goals, but they have their own. They know they have to stop these eyeballs. They don't really know why, but they kind of, the whole point of this game is it's a mystery in the metaphor, so they have to figure out the metaphor. And once they finished it, they go, oh, now we get invisibility. Oh, that's gonna be 5 eyeballs. Like, oh, the whole thing, it all tied around to itself. So this game, everything ties into everything else, even though it's just simple encounters. You make the encounters about the game. You put the game and the encounters in the same category. So I hope you liked that video. We are Omniverse Gamers. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. I hope to see you soon, and keep on gaming.